We just want to say that we've waited 2 years for God to get justice for us on behalf of our son. And as always, God has proved to be faithful. And we're so thrilled that we have the verdict that we have tonight.
Judy Littlefield, the mother of Chad Littlefield, not only the tragedy of these two killings, but the fact that Chad Littlefield, in a lot of ways, has become the forgotten victim because this case also involved the American sniper Chris Kyle. Eddie Ray Routh, found guilty, sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole last night, but will this really be the end of the line in this case? Joining us with this morning's legal brief, noted criminal defense attorney Geoffrey G. Nathan from Boston, and staying with us, our good friend Betsy McCoy from Newsmax, New York. So, Geoffrey, the conviction last night, I guess it was the judge with the sentence, life without the possibility of parole, but will this delay the defense attorneys from trying to appeal this?
There's going to be an automatic appeal. Anytime an individual is sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole, states have a mechanism in place to make sure that the defendant's rights were properly protected during the trial and send the matter to a higher court to review what happened at the trial specifically, most importantly, the instructions that the judge gave to the jury. And so consequently, will it delay it? It's not going to delay the sentence. He's not going to be let out pending his appeal. He's going to go right into the jail, and then there's going to be an appeal.
What's the big issue, though, on the appeal? Is it the sanity of the defendant? Because we see so many times when military people suffering from PTSD and other mental illnesses due to battle commit crimes. Is that the issue?
Yeah, the issue is really whether or not the judge properly instructed the jury how to evaluate the evidence, not necessarily whether or not the jurors rendered a decision that was contrary to the facts. I mean, that happens in the course of a trial. But here, you know, the evidence was equally weighed for the jury's deliberation, and they came up on the side of guilty, which happens more likely than not, guilty beyond a reasonable doubt, and they rejected the insanity defense based upon the evidence primarily of flight. You know, that the defendant led the police on a high-speed chase. That was damning to the defense. They had a hard time getting around that. And so, you know, I think he's stuck with this verdict, although there will be a review on any possible errors of law committed by the court.
And the jury now, Geoffrey, we talked about this the other day. To my knowledge, the judge did not forbid the jury from going to see the film American Sniper or from watching the Oscars ceremony where Taya Kyle made an appearance. Based on that, are there grounds for an appeal just with those instructions or lack of instructions to the jury?
Well, certainly. And I think what the defense is going to allege is that in their appeal is that the jury should have been sequestered at the point when the evidence was closed, and that their deliberations should have been in a sequestered environment. And as a consequence, I really believe that it's eminently possible that a higher court could send this back down for a retrial. I think you could expect that to occur in a case of this magnitude. It happens a lot in circumstances where someone's either sentenced to death or to prison, LWOP, life without the possibility of parole, the highest possible punishment short of death that can be handed down. So there are many layers of protections that all states have set up to make sure that it was done right. And just because it was done doesn't mean that it was done right, JD.
Geoffrey, a little less than 3.5 minutes remain in our time together, and we understand that you have some very important news for us in the trial of Dzhokhar Tsarnaev, the Boston Marathon bombing trial. What have you heard, and from whom have you heard it?
JD, I can report to you as well that anyone who thinks that the death penalty allegation in the complaint against Tsarnaev is going to be taken off the table in exchange for his plea bargain to life in prison without the possibility of parole. That ain't going to happen. In the course of my discussions in the United States Attorney's Office in Boston, I had an opportunity to converse with a very high-up assistant United States attorney who told me that under no circumstances would they take the death penalty of Vermin and the complaint off the table in exchange for a plea bargain in this case. And you can expect that a jury will be seated very shortly, and opening arguments are going to take place, and at no point during the proceedings will there be any kind of a plea bargain offered by the United States government to this defendant to spare him his life. They intend to try him, and they intend to kill him, JD.
Amen. But let me ask you this. So everybody knows the Tsarnaev brothers did it. What's going to be the big issue in this trial?
Well, the big issue is going to be that they're going to bring out this defendant's high school coaches, his teachers, and they're going to say that he was a puppy dog to his older brother, who really was a punk criminal if there ever was one. And they're going to say that he was unduly influenced by his brother, and that his brother, who's now dead, and can't rebut any statements, obviously, because he's in a grave. But that's going to be the crux of the defense, as best I can discern.
About a minute remains, Geoffrey. I heard you talk about puppy dog. What I thought of more was the Rolling Stone cover with his picture. Less a puppy dog, more of a heartthrob, given that perverse attraction for some in our culture for a misunderstood murderer. Is that really going to hold water?
Well, I mean, the defense has the right to use anything in their cards to exonerate him, to get him off of the death penalty. And, you know, they can say, look, he's a handsome kid who didn't really understand because he emigrated to the United States from Chechnya. So because he's an immigrant, he should be given a break. And because he's a quasi-celebrity on the cover of Rolling Stone, you should let him off the hook. Good luck. I think this kid is facing a needle, and it's going to happen pretty soon.
Geoffrey Nathan, as always, we appreciate your reporting in this case from sources within the U.S. Attorney's Office in Boston. And Betsy, we appreciate your time here. Just another note about that first case we talked about, that involving Chris Kyle. You can read Chris Kyle's story. You can pick up a copy of the American Sniper book at newsmax.com/sniper. We're coming right back.